Hey everybody, this is your mentor Scott Marlin, and I'm here in the Cerro Cabrillo area. Just rode my bike up to Portola Point, and I'm looking out at the Morro Bay estuary here. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about watersheds and estuaries. Basically, a watershed is where, it's also known as a drainage basin. It's where all the water and precipitation gathers together and drains into a larger body of water. That can be a river, a creek, a lake. For us here, we have a perfect example of two creeks, Osos Creek and Chorro Creek, draining into the estuary here and eventually out into the ocean. So basically it's like if you're at your house and you turn on the sink, and no matter where the water goes in your sink, it's eventually gonna go out the drain in the bottom. But on a much larger scale, that's what we have in a watershed or a drainage basin. So yeah, imagine that you were driving on the highway to go to El Chorro Park, to go to a day of program at Outside Now. And on one side you have the Seven Sisters, and on the other side you have a bunch of other hills, and you're basically in a big valley. And that's a perfect example of a watershed where you can see the canyons in the valley, and you can almost imagine the water draining down into Chorro Creek, which eventually comes out here into the ocean. And Dairy Creek is also part of that. That's the creek that we often play in on program, in or around when program is in session. And that meets up with Chorro Creek and comes out to the ocean here. And meets up with the estuary, which I think is a really special thing. Estuaries are threatened, which is unfortunate because they're a really important part of our ecosystem. There's a diverse group of animals that live in the estuary. I've seen deer walking around this estuary as well as seals swimming through it. So it's kind of where the saltwater meets the freshwater, and that provides a really interesting ecosystem. And there's some great places around here that you can hike and view the watershed and the estuary. This Cerro Cabrillo area is a great view of the estuary. Over here, boop, we have Black Hill, which is also a great way to see the greater watershed and the estuary. And here we have Cerro Cabrillo, and if you're feeling really ambitious, you can go up there, and that also gives you a great view of the valley and the estuary. Yeah, so next time you're out, try to imagine where the water would go. I like to imagine what kind of watershed I'm in. Even if you don't see any water, you can kind of imagine just seeing the small canyons and cracks in the mountains, and just imagine that you are some water, and where would gravity take you? And that's a watershed. Thank you.